Good artists copy, great artists steal. Okay, that Picasso quote. Let's think about that for a moment.
Right.
We're not actually talking about literal theft, are we? Sneaking into a gallery or something.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
It's more about understanding an idea, really getting it, and then building on it, making it your own.
Exactly. Which, interestingly, brings us straight to today's deep dive, the Divergent movies, and their relationship with some of those other huge young adult dystopian franchises.
Yeah, it's fascinating how that quote frames it, isn't it? We're not here to point fingers and shout plagiarism.
Definitely not.
It's more about looking at how stories borrow from each other, how they repurpose themes, tropes,
And the real creativity is in that stealing, how you transform it.
Precisely. The recontextualization, that's where the magic happens. Sometimes doesn't.
Right. And if you remember the early 2010s pop culture scene at all.
Oh, yeah.
It felt like every other movie was a YA dystopian thing, didn't it?
Absolutely. It was a huge wave.
And you had the ones everyone talked about, The Hunger Games, The Maze Runner, and Divergent, kind of the big three.
That's what people call them, yeah.
So today, we're focusing specifically on the movie, the adaptation, and how they handled, borrowing.
And our main guide for this discussion is this really sharp YouTube video analysis from Carbon Helium.
Okay.
What's great about it is its critical look at the Divergent films, specifically how they tried to sort of bottle the magic of the others.
Capture that lightning again.
Exactly. And apparently the whole thing started because the creator's girlfriend has let's say, a fondness for enjoyably bad movies.
We all know that feeling, or know someone like that.
Right. So they rewatched Divergent, and it sparked this whole analysis about imitation.
An aha moment during a bad movie night. Love it. Okay, so our mission today for this deep dive is to unpack how the Divergent movies tried to use tropes from Hunger Games and Maze Runner.
And crucially, why the video argues that this approach actually caused problems for the story itself, narrative issues.
Right. Not just, this is similar, but here's why the similarity didn't quite work.
Exactly. It's the how and the why. Why does some borrowing feel inspired and other times just sort of falls flat?
Okay, let's get into it. Surface level stuff first, Divergent and the Hunger.
The parallels are pretty striking right away.
Young female protagonist, teenager, living in a society split into rigid groups, factions in this case.
Yep. And she gets caught up in political turmoil, becomes key to a rebellion against the system.
The video even says the plot summaries practically line up.
They really do. Oppressive society, young woman outsider, brewing revolution. It's a familiar structure, clearly one that resonated.
And it doesn't stop there, does it? The comparison with the Maze Runner.
No, the video brings up some really interesting points there, too.
Again, teenage protagonist, but this time in a confined world, totally clueless about the outside.
Right. Facing trials, breaking out into a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
And then the big reveal, surprise, you were part of a giant experiment to save humanity.
Exactly. That isolated setting, the mystery of the outside, the eventual experiment twist, those are shared beats, for sure.
You can see why the video draws those initial comparisons.
Definitely. But here's the core of the argument, and this is where it gets really good.
Okay.
The video isn't saying borrowing is bad, full stop.
Right. That's not the point.
It actually points out that Hunger Games and Maze Runner themselves have roots in older stories, older myths.
Like influences are everywhere in storytelling.
Exactly. The issue the video raises with Divergent isn't that it borrowed, but how it borrowed, the execution.
Okay, so the way they did it.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Inspiration doesn't just pop out of nowhere. Storytellers build on what came before. The real art is taking those existing bits and making them feel fresh, making them serve your story, your themes.
And the video uses the Hunger Games as a prime example of doing this well.
Right. It talks about the Theseus and the Minotaur myth.
Oh, yeah, the labyrinth the kids sent as sacrifice.
That core idea of a forced tribute, like for past wrongs, it's there.
But Suzanne Collins didn't just copy it.
Not at all. She layered so much on top. The televised death match, the Capitol's control, the reminder of the district's past rebellion.
She gave it a totally modern political spin.
Exactly. It wasn't just the myth. It was the myth plus gladiators, plus totalitarianism, plus reality TV.
That combination, the video really stresses that, the combination of ideas.
And how that specific mix served the big theme. How authoritarian power worked, how it uses entertainment, spectacle to control people.
Her own comments about channel surfing between reality shows and war footage, that really clicks.
It shows the intentionality behind it. It wasn't random.
And Katniss becomes a kind of Theseus figure ending the games.
There's that parallel. Plus, The video notes Collins was involved in the screenplay.
Which probably helped keep those core ideas intact for the movie.
Often makes a big difference, yeah. Author involvement.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. The Maze Runner.
Right. The video gives it credit for some interesting world building, even with its own inspiration.
The movie's got mixed reviews, maybe, but the core book concept.
Yeah, kids trapped in the maze, no memories, escaping to find this ruined world. The experiment reveal, it draws on things.
Like Plato's cave, the video mentions that.
Exactly. People mistaking shadows for reality, unaware of the bigger picture. It's a powerful allegory.
We see it in other places, too, like The Truman Show or The Matrix.
Yeah.
Or even Attack on Titan.
That theme of confined reality. But the video argues Maze Runner put its own twist on it.
How?
Well, the reveal about the experiment, it wasn't totally out of left field, especially in the books. There were clues.
Ah, right. The weird creatures, the grievers, wicked. The maze itself being impossible.
Yeah, hints were dropped.
Yeah.
And crucially, there was a thematic reason behind Wicked's actions.
The flare virus. That disease turning people savage.
Right. It sets up this, really intense ethical problem. Is it okay to torture kids, basically, if it might save the world from this horrible plague?
It gives Wicked a motivation, even if you think it's monstrous. It's not just evil for evil's sake.
Exactly. There are stakes. You understand why they're doing it, even if you condemn it.
So that combination maze, apocalypse, ethical dilemma felt somewhat fresh.
Relatively, yeah. It took familiar pieces, but assembled them in a distinct way.
Okay, so now, Divergent, the main event of this deep dive.
This is where the video really focuses its critique.
That it tried to borrow from both, but kind of missed why those elements worked in the first.
Yeah, back to that Picasso quote. It's not enough to just copy the surface. You have to steal the essence, understand why it worked, and then make it fit your story.
Okay, let's break it down. First, the concept of divergence.
Right. Society split into 5 factions based on traits. Divergents are rare, fitting into multiple factions.
And the video asks, well, shouldn't everyone have a mix of traits? Like, are people not an erudite just dumb?
It pokes holes in the logic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The system feels a bit arbitrary.
And it sets Triss up immediately as the chosen one because she's divergent.
And the video really criticizes that trope as it's used here. It argues there's no real tension around her status.
Unlike, say, Neo in The Matrix or Paul in Dune. They have doubts, uncertainty.
Exactly. They struggle with it. But the video points to that scene in the second Divergent movie.
Oh, where they explicitly say she's 100% divergent.
Yeah. And the video's like, well, there goes any suspense, any vulnerability. She's just special. Full stop.
It makes her less relatable, maybe? Less interesting because there's no internal conflict about it.
Pretty much. We never really worry if she can do something because she's presented as inherently capable due to being divergent.
The video even plays that what-if game. What if Triss wasn't divergent?
Right. Wouldn't her choice to join Dauntless be way more powerful then? Just an ordinary girl making a brave, risky choice.
Like Katniss felt more grounded initially.
Exactly. The argument is Divergent copied the faction idea from Hunger Games, but missed the deeper commentary on control, on society.
It just became a sorting mechanism, not really a thematic.
That's the critique, yeah. It lacked the nuance.
Okay. Then there's the other big borrowing, living behind walls, like Maze Runner.
Divergent's set in walled-off Chicago. But the video's point is crucial.
It doesn't matter until the end of the second movie.
Pretty much. There's almost no foreshadowing, no mystery built around the wall or the outside world being part of an experiment. It just drops in as a twist.
Feels tacked on, maybe. Not baked into the world from the start.
Compared to Maze Runner, yeah. Where the maze, the enclosure, is central right from page 1 or scene 1.
You know something's weird about their world immediately in Maze Runner.
Right, and then comparing the reasons for the enclosures.
Okay, Maze Runner had the flare virus, a tangible, scary threat driving Wicked.
Creates that ethical gray area, gives them a desperate motivation.
At Allegiant, the third Divergent movie.
Yeah.
The reason for the experiment.
Yeah, the video found that explanation really weak. Humanity almost destroyed itself over genetic modification debates generations ago.
So now this Bureau of Genetic Welfare is looking for pure genes versus damaged ones.
But the video argues there's no actual threat shown. No difference between the pure and damaged people is ever really demonstrated. It feels abstract, flimsy.
So the Bureau just seems randomly evil. No compelling reason for this massive controlling experiment.
Exactly. The motivation just isn't there. The stakes feel completely artificial compared to the flare.
So wrapping up the video's argument, Divergent grabbed pieces from other hits.
Right, surface-level pieces, factions, walls, chosen ones, experiments.
But without understanding why they worked in Hunger Games or Maze Runner, the context, the themes.
The underlying purpose. So the result, according to the video, is kind of a mishmash. Themes that don't quite connect, leading to films that feel, well, cliché and forgettable.
A collection of borrowed parts that didn't add up to a cohesive whole.
That's the core takeaway from the source. Imitation without understanding, without transformation, doesn't really cut it.
Okay, so let's recap the main point from this deep dive. It really boils down to this, doesn't it? Creative work almost always builds on what came before. Copying, borrowing, inspiration, that's normal. It's part of the process.
Totally normal. Essential, even.
The key thing, the magic ingredient, is combining those borrowed ideas, making sure they serve your story's purpose, your theme.
That's when stealing becomes artistry.
Yeah.
When you make it truly your own and give it new meaning.
And according to the Carbon Helium video, that's where Divergent stumbled. It copied the notes but missed the music, maybe.
That's a good way to put it. The transformation wasn't quite there.
All right. So on that note, here's something for you, the listener, to think about after we wrap up. Consider other adaptations, sequels, maybe even reboots you've seen or read. Can you think of examples where a project really successfully stole ideas, where they took existing concepts but truly made them fresh, compelling, their own thing?
And maybe think about what made those successful ones work. What was different compared to ones that felt more like, well, pale imitation?
Yeah, what does that tell us about about that tricky, fascinating balance between honoring the source, borrowing wise, and creating something genuinely original?